So Alsace as a region is known for, it's kind of the opposite of what you would think. It's known for dry Riesling and Gewürztraminer, dry Riesling and Muscat, and sweet Pinot Gris and Gewürztraminer. It's kind of an interesting little mix. You would kind of think the opposite generally, like out of Germany. Alsace is unique in that sense. Very high elevation vineyards. It's right on the border, right? It's where France and Germany meet. So you get all of those really unique aromatic varieties. Koenig makes a Cremant Alsace, a sparkling brut. They make a Gewürz, a Pinot Gris, and a Riesling. I've got the Riesling just because I love Riesling. I think that so many people do. And that's why I decided to taste it. We got the new vintage in 2018. Alsace is known for really long-lived wines in the highest level. So you get Grand Cru vineyards, which are historically the best vineyards in all of Alsace. This is a Vin d'Alsace. So this is from non-classified vineyards, kind of from anywhere lower down the estate. Normally the lower elevation vineyards are from Vin d'Alsace. Yeah, and it's 100% Riesling. So Alsace Riesling is most kind of well known for the kind of petroleum notes that the wines show, especially with a bit of age. This is a 2018, so not a lot of age on it, but for a kind of an Alsace wine made to be drunk young, it does have a little bit of age. So when I say petroleum, it's not like if you're in a gas station, right, and you're filling up your gas tank. It's not like over the top and overwhelming with aromatics. It's just like a hint of petrol, if that makes sense. Almost like it kind of has like a ginger cookie quality to it. You can imagine ginger cookies cooking in the oven, and like there was gas like that you had just poured like a couple of minutes before. So it's like just on the edges, just like on the hints on the edges of it. Kind of interesting. It's hard to describe, but next time if you ever smell an Alsace Riesling, stick your nose in there and think petrol, and you'll kind of get what I'm saying. Anyway. So, this wine has like a racing acidity, beautiful acidity. It's a very linear wine. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It doesn't kind of evolve and show different characteristics on the palate. The acidity runs all the way through the wine, right from the beginning all the way to the end, and I'm still tasting it on the finish. It's not extremely fruit forward. There are some lime notes and orange peel. It's kind of citrusy. And then some minerality. So minerality is hard to describe, right? But minerality is, imagine like, okay, kids nowadays don't have this anymore, but remember when you used to have chalk blackboards and you would like bang the wiper together and you get that like dust of cloud, how that smelt is kind of how this tastes, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of a element of minerality. I know that's a terrible description, but if you imagine it, you can kind of get what I'm saying. Okay, so I want to just make sure I'm seeing chats here, because if anyone's asking, I want to. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chats, or just jump in and tell me if you want. Yeah, so that is the Koenig Riesling. It is $16.99. Another interesting thing about Alsace Riesling, it's got some volume, some body to it. Like when I talk about body, I'm talking about if you compare it to milk, right? Skim milk versus 1% versus 2% versus whole versus half and half. Think of that as body. So from the lightest to the heaviest. This has some body to it. It's not thin like water. It's maybe got like 1%, 2% milk. It's got a little bit of texture in your mouth. Really delicious wine. Exactly what an Alsatian Riesling should taste like. So pick that up, guys. $16.99. Really great for the holidays. Easy drinking, lower alcohol, bit of a crowd pleaser. Dry, but not like austere. So yeah, that's a great one. Next up, we have got the Sagot Chardonnay, new vintage, 2019 Sagot Chardonnay. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Sagot. They kind of came onto the scene in the early 2000s, made a big splash. Very well known for the Sinai, right? The Sinai is a very popular wine, but their winemaker, Yaakov Oria, is really into white wines. Under his own label, I think he only makes white wines, if I'm not mistaken. They're all skin contact white wines, meaning he kind of makes white wine in the way you would make red wine, where you leave the skins from the grapes in contact with the juice. So you get a bit more extraction of tannins and things like that. Whereas the Chardonnay that he makes for Sagot, not under his own label, is the more traditional style of Chardonnay, where they take the cluster of grapes, they squeeze it so the juice runs clear, and then they ferment the juice, right? So that's the major difference between white wine, rosé, and red wine. White wine, squeeze the grapes, get the juice, ferment the juice. And then red wines, you leave the skins in contact with the juice for an extended period of time, right? So that's the difference between white wine, rosé, and red wine. So this is the Chardonnay from Sagot. It's Mevushal. The Koenig was Mevushal too, by the way. It's a traditionally oaked Chardonnay, meaning that the wine is fermented in barrels. And for that reason, you're going to get more caramel and vanilla notes. When you oak a wine, traditionally, it goes through two fermentations. It goes through alcoholic fermentation, where you're taking sugar, turning it into alcohol, right? Every wine goes through that, including the Koenig. But barrel fermented Chardonnay traditionally goes through a second fermentation called malolactic fermentation, where a bacteria takes malic acid, right, those kind of green apple notes that you get in fresh wines, and converts that to malic acid, to lactic acid, which is the acid you get in milk, right? So think of like the creaminess. So it kind of softens the acid and converts it to, so you still have the same acid and still got the structure to be able to age, but you're going to get a little bit more kind of rounded notes. And this does go through malolactic fermentation. So on the nose, you get the oak comes through kind of some caramel, vanilla. Really kind of typical Israeli Chardonnay, which I love and I'm excited about. So let's taste it. So oak definitely shows through. That creaminess, the lactic acid definitely shows through. And then on top of that, you get some like tropical notes, you get stone fruit, pear, really like complex fruit flavors. Even like when I say tropical, I mean like banana and like maybe mango and even like a bit of pineapple. Really unique and interesting and layers upon layers of fruit. Really cool. It's not even that premium of a Chardonnay. It's $23.99. That's a really good buy for, I really think one of the better Chardonnays coming out of Israel, one of the better oak Chardonnays coming out of Israel. Really great. It's higher elevation, 750 meters high, so you still get this beautiful acid. How does this compare to the Tabor Chard I tasted last week? I think this is a significantly better bottle of wine to the Tabor, but it's double the price, right? So is it twice as good? That's hard to say. You kind of get diminishing returns when you're spending more money on wine. Like you're getting better quality for sure, but like I think they're both great for different reasons. I think the Tabor is your Tuesday night Chardonnay, and this is your Shabbos Chardonnay. Does that make sense? That's my answer to you, Jody. But if you like the Tabor, you're going to like this too. Same kind of acid backbone style. Slightly more oak on this, which I think adds to the complexity, and is really backed up by all of that fruit, which is cool. Like it a lot. So, next up, got a lovely rosé from Tuscany. The Mesci Rosé from Terra di Seta in Tuscany. Beautiful kosher estate. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures and heard wonderful things. This is 100% Sangiovese, which is, you know, the traditional grape you're going to find in Tuscany. Beautiful color, kind of salmon, almost like slightly almost orange, salmon orange color. Beautiful color. So Italian rosé is kind of interesting. Italian rosé is traditionally like just really light red wine, right? Like that's what they used to come out with back in the day. Since I hung there for a second. Since the Provençal style rosé has kind of blown up, everyone's making lighter and lighter style rosé. I love Italian rosé because you're going to get more kind of earthy notes. It's not just all kind of fruit and acid. You're going to get some earth and some kind of more interest to it. What I love about Italian rosé, I mean, I love French rosé too, don't get me wrong. Love all rosé, let me just say that. So on the nose, like I said, that earthiness, for sure. You get like imagine wet gravel in like a strawberry field. So it's like a hint of strawberry, but you're just smelling like a strawberry field, like a hint of strawberry and the dirt around the strawberries, if that makes any sense. I feel like it makes sense in my head, and that's all that matters. Okay. On the palate, strawberry, acid, the earthiness shows through around the edges. Really balanced wine, right? This is telling a complete story from beginning to end, just like the Koenig was. The acid speaks to you all the way through. It doesn't drop off at any point. It keeps strong and powerful all the way through, all the way to the finish. Really balanced, elegant. This wine is great to drink on a hot summer afternoon, but that acid backbone is going to allow it to pair amazingly well with food. So yeah, I think that's a really cool wine. And also, once again, $15.99. Like where rosés are going right now, the market is just so hot for rosé. The prices are going through the roof. So when you can find a $15.99 value rosé, you know, you guys should go after it. This is killer. While we still got some sunshine going on the Northeast here, take advantage of what we have in stock, and this is really a great rosé. Kind of get you through the rest of the season. On that note, if you are looking for something more Provençal style, more kind of fruit, acid driven rather than earthy and voluminous, we just got in, and I wanted to taste it for this wine webinar. We just got in a fantastic French rosé called Rubis Rock, R-U-B-I-S R-O-C. Literally just landed. We imported ourselves. We're the only people to carry it. It is fantastic. It's the best rosé I've had this season in that Provençal style. R-U-B-I-S-R-O-C. Check it out on Kosherwine.com. I'll taste it next time we get together, but yeah, it's a killer wine. You guys should totally check it out for a great price point. So next up, we have got a super interesting wine. So this is from Heiju Wines. It's called Besomim. And this is, so Jonathan Heiju is the assistant winemaker at Covenant Wines. So he makes the wines under Jeff Morgan. And this is a project that he has under his own label, where he kind of does a really interesting and unique mix of wines from all over. He does a lot of Italian varieties. This is his, I guess it started originally as a field blend. And if you guys aren't familiar with what a field blend is, it's where the vineyard is planted to multiple varieties. And then you just harvest them all together, right? So it's a very traditional way of planting vineyards, right? So back in the day, back in history, where we didn't have the control over viticulture that we have now, where we can kind of grow grapes in any vintage, right? Whether it's whether we have hail or not, we kind of make do, and we have techniques to get around that. Back in the day, you kind of just let Mother Nature do its thing, and at the end of the season, you harvested what grapes you had. So in certain vintages, for example, when you had a field blend in France, the Grenache would do well, but the Karinion wouldn't, or the Syrah would do great, but the Viognier would not, right? So what we have now is all these kind of old vineyards that were made in that traditional style, making maybe more kind of bulk wine or jug wine, where they were hedging their bets. But what's happened is you have these new kind of wave and generation of winemakers taking these fields, these old vineyards that are field blends, and making high quality wines out of them, right? This wine originally was a field blend of multiple varieties. I think they don't use that vineyard anymore, so now it's kind of like a field blend in a glass. It's the kitchen sink wine. So they have these multiple vineyards with all these different varieties that they then blend down together to make this wine, and that's what Jonathan does. This wine is made from the Mission grape, which is like the original sacramental wine grape in the Americas, from Spain. I think it's traditionally a sacramental wine, which is kind of cool. And then some Pinot Noir, some Petit Syrah, some Zin. It's kind of just this wild blend that nobody else is making. And it's called Balsamim. I haven't smelled it or tasted it yet, but I'm assuming I know what the Balsamim is a reference to. Yeah, and there it is. There's a lot of like cinnamon and clove on the nose, and maybe I'm just saying that because I read it on the label, but but I'm definitely getting those notes. And then a lot of fruit. I mean, this is like jammy, strawberry, cherry. Just a kind of a real opulent, jammy nose with some interesting kind of clove and cinnamon behind it, which is kind of cool. Those spice notes really show through significantly on the palate. So the almost like coriander, like a savory spice, coriander, clove, cinnamon, all backed up by really rich red and black fruit, like a lot of fruit, just overwhelming the palate, but balanced and integrated. This is not an over-the-top like alcohol bomb that's going to absolutely destroy like your taste buds. It's 14.5 alcohol. I wouldn't have said that. It's really elegant and balanced for a high alcohol wine. Really delicious, really unique. If you want something to kind of talk about, show off, and kind of get people talking, this is the wine for it. It's $36.99 for one of the more unique blends out of California from an absolute rock star winemaker in the kosher wine world. We get a tiny amount of the Heiju wines. We are the only retailer outside of like a couple states to carry it. Definitely check these wines out. They are spectacular. You should definitely give them a shot. He also makes a Vermentino, Sangiovese, Montepulciano, red and unique wines. Just type in Heiju, Hadju, into our search bar at Kosherwine.com. You'll see all 5 or 6 of those wines that we carry. Super unique. Check them out. Really good. Give it a shot, guys. Okay. Lastly, this is not a new wine or a new vintage, but it might be new to you. And if it is, I want you guys to try it, because this is the Gitto Shani Red. If you can kind of see it's stylized Hebrew for Gitto. Gitto Shani Red. This is Karinion and Syrah. So this is from an amazing winemaker called Malkiel Hadari, I don't actually know how he pronounces it. This is from the micro winery. So remember last week, if you guys were here last week, we spoke about the Chiran from Eli Chiran. This is that same project. So the CEO and EVP of Kosherwine.com went over to Israel in 2011, tasted with 40 different little literally micro wineries, like wineries producing less than 1,000 cases of wine. Met with all these guys and wanted to give them a platform to come to the US and make their mark on the kosher wine industry in America, in the biggest market. And this is another one of those wines from Gitto that is just absolutely spectacular. I really hope that this is the future of Israeli winemaking, because the skill that Malkiel has for making specifically red wines. Don't get me wrong, his white wines are killer too. He has a white wine called Upchaz, U-P-H-A-Z. That is probably my favorite Israeli white right now. But I wanted to taste a red with you guys, because we'll need some red wine for the holidays. So yeah, it's a blend of Karinion and Syrah. And he does something really interesting with the Syrah. He does whole cluster fermentation, right? So remember I spoke about taking the white wine, we take the whole cluster, we crush it, the juice then gets fermented to make white wine. Rosé, right? We leave some skin in contact with the juice. Red wine, you traditionally, not traditionally, in more modern winemaking, you de-stem the grapes. So you take the whole cluster of grapes, you pull all the grapes off, right? And you throw the stem out, and then you ferment the grapes in contact with the juice, right? The skin in contact with the juice, and you get extraction and color. That's where all the tannins and a lot of the phenolics, the flavors from red wine come from. What Malkiel does with the Syrah in this blend is he does whole cluster fermentation. So he takes the whole cluster, throws it into a fermenter, and what you get then is, first of all, inclusion of the stems, right? So for that reason, you're going to extract flavors that aren't just fruit flavors. And what you often get is a way to balance some kind of over-the-top fruit that you might get from Syrah in a warm environment, right? This is a tradition that they do in the Rhone Valley, where it gets quite warm and the Syrah can get over the top, and you add a few kind of savory notes from the stems, right? Think of like oregano and nutmeg and bell pepper and things like that. And that kind of subdues the fruit a little bit and integrates it a little bit, subdues the alcohol, subdues the acidity. So he does that with his Syrah in this blend, and I think it's genius. I think it's what makes this wine so special. Because Karinion is so fruity, so fruit forward, and then Syrah, if the Syrah was just over the top on top of that, this wine would be totally out of whack. He includes the stems, and that just subdues everything, brings it all back into balance. It's really, really cool. Anyway, so let me tell you about this wine. So on the nose, interesting. It's like blueberries. Okay, so let me back this up. I don't love using food descriptors to describe wine. It's something I kind of force myself to do. But I like wine to just kind of taste like wine. If I were to ask you what like an orange tastes like, you wouldn't use other flavors to describe it, right? You would say it tastes like an orange or a steak, right? Even though I'm sure there are other phenolics and flavors in there that you could pull out and describe in certain ways and break it down, I like to see it for what it is. I like to kind of see the forest for the trees, right? So this just smells delicious to me, is what I want to say. It kind of smells like a fruit pie, like a fruit tart. So it's got some almost like baked bread notes, which is kind of interesting, amongst all those berries and fruit, which is kind of cool. So instead of breaking down every berry and whatever, I'm just saying it smells like berry pie, which is kind of cool. And then really soft, elegant tannins. They kind of tickle your tongue. They play all the way around the edges of my tongue, all the way down to the tip, and they keep tasting all the way through. You keep feeling them and tasting them. This wine goes on forever. I'm still tasting it now. Those berry notes, the pie kind of notes keep coming through, but it's not cloying. It's really well integrated. Like it's extracted and intense, but not to a point that you don't want to have another glass, right? Not to a point that you don't want to go back and revisit it. It's right on that edge of being intense and extracted, but it's not like medicinal or syrupy or gloopy. It is just right on the edge, super delicious. This is a wine you can absolutely enjoy by itself, but it's got some beautiful tannins that I think are going to pair fantastically well with like something fatty, a ribeye, a brisket. I think that it's got a bit of a Mediterranean thing because it's got a little bit of a savory note to it, some olives maybe on the palate. And for that reason, I think if you start pairing it with some Mediterranean spices, I think it's going to work well. A really special wine from a really special winery, from a really special winemaker, unique to us, right? We're the only guys who import it. And if you have not tasted the Gittel wines, please check them out, taste them, really killer. So those are the 4 wines I tasted for you guys today. If you have any questions, please feel free to pipe up. If not, we're going to probably do another one of these before Rosh Hashanah, but I did want to give you guys a heads up. We currently just today started I want to get the name right, so I don't, the Rosh Hashanah early bird sale, right? So if you order by August 22nd for your Rosh Hashanah wines, you get 7% off across the board. We're not offering a discount on any of these wines today because that's just a great deal. Right, I'm not going to offer you anything more than the amazing across the board sale that we've got going on right now. So the early bird sale is if you order by August 22nd, you get 7% off your order, your whole order. And if you order by the 29th, you get 5% off. So a really good deal. That's across the board on every wine we sell at Kosherwine.com. Everything's in stock. Get your wines early. You know you're going to need them for Rosh Hashanah. So check them out. If you want any recommendations outside of these 5 or anything else that I might have mentioned, that Ruby's Rock or something like that Rosé, right? Email me, Brad@Kosherwine.com, and I can give you some recommendations and we can set up a time to chat, or I could just tell you what I think you should have for your holidays. Okay? Thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure. I hope you guys learned a little bit. I hope you had some fun, and I hope I was able to inform you about maybe this little subset of wine that is available to you and unique and interesting that you should totally check out. Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Is there any aging potential for the Koenig Riesling?
Yeah, absolutely. So like the high end, the top end of Koenig wines, of Alsatian wines, can last like 20 to 25 years. This is a Van der Alsace. I think you could probably, from date of vintage, probably get 5 to 7 years out of it. So it's nothing over the top or anything, but it certainly has some aging potential, and it's made to be drunk young, but it doesn't have to be drunk young. I think you will get some interesting, those petroleum notes will probably deepen and integrate a little bit more, just integrate a little bit more down the line. But yeah, it's absolutely got some aging potential.
Thank you.
You're welcome.